Let's now look at the virtualization lesson. That's lesson 9. We have a number of topics to cover here. We'll introduce the new virtualization features, the virtual image exception, shared insight cache, virtual client tagging, and offline image scanner. Let's look at those virtualization features. This is new with SEP 12.1. It's been brought in because it has been particularly difficult to scan and protect virtual systems. Previously, with traditional technologies, it has been very performance heavy. So we're trying to improve the performance and enable continuous scans to occur, but still enable the effect of this not to hit the computer too much. Previously, we've used scan randomization, which has spread out the load, but it doesn't reduce the load. It just makes it duplicate the same scans, but at different times. So let's have a look at the overview of virtualization enhancements. We've brought in the virtual image exception, and this enables us to exclude certain files, certain common files that are common across all the different guest clients, so that any that are in the base image can be skipped from scanning. Shared insight cache. This allows the clients to skip scanning files that have already been scanned by other clients. Virtual client tagging enables the administrators to tag all the virtual clients and therefore make it easier for them to group together and apply specific policies. Offline image scanner enables you to scan the VMware offline images, the VMDK files. Let's look at the virtual image exception. So we're looking to reduce the scan load. We want to create the base image and exclude base images from the scans so that there are no duplication scanning occurring. We'll use the Virtual Image Exception tool, the VIE. This adds attributes to the base image files so that it scans only the added or modified files between the different images. So what do we need to do to use the Virtual Image Exception tool? Well, we first of all need to scan all the files to ensure we have a good scan of everything initially. Then we need to ensure we empty the quarantine. We execute the VIE tool and then enable the exclusions in the SEPM. Here we can see the VIE requirements or the supported environments and operating systems. Some additional requirements and information below. We can see that SEP 12.1 or later must be installed in the virtual machine prior to running the tool. This is the only supported version, no pre-version 12.1. The SEPM doesn't record which files are excluded, but it's ideal for linked clone environments where the whitelists are common on the images. And files that are modified after the tool runs are no longer whitelisted. So here we can see executing the VIE tool. We can see the command under the tool's virtual image exception and the usage in the command prompt box. So when the VIE tool runs, we're creating a whitelist. That's a whitelist of all the applications that have been scanned. The VIE list files then are found, and we add those files to the local whitelist. Then on the SEPM, we can set up certain exclusions. We're doing this within the policies page and selecting the virus and spyware protection policy. And under the miscellaneous section, we can enable the virtual image activating exclusions. We can optimize the scanning. So under this area, we can enable virtual image exception for auto protect and also enable virtual image exception for administrator-defined scans. Some best practices for VIE. Run that full scan before running the tool to ensure that we have scanned everything first. Have one static instance of the image set that have been saved. Scan all the files on an ongoing basis, including files previously whitelisted by the VIE and new product definitions. And if you find a whitelisted threat, you can run that VIE tool on the image with a /clear option to remove that threat from the whitelist to ensure that it's not scanned against and skipped at a later date. Let's look at the shared insight cache now. Shared Insight Cache is basically enabling you to share the information about other servers that are scanning files, creating sort of group whitelists in effect. The shared cache for the whitelisted file information is stored in the Shared Insight Cache. We've got secure communication between this Shared Insight Cache server, between the virtual servers. Supports on-demand scans only, not auto-protect. Is memory resident and is scalable to thousands of clients that can share this SIC server. And it applies to all files, not just the executables. So what do we need to do to install and configure the Shared Insight Cache? Well, we need to check to make sure we're covering the system requirements and prerequisites first of all. Then we install the Shared Insight Cache server on your specified system. Configure the settings on that Shared Insight Cache and enable it within the SEPM. Here are the requirements and prerequisites. Installing it, we need to run the Shared Insight Cache installation MSI from the Shared Insight Cache folder. There are some default initial settings relating to ports, and we can see the default values of the parameters and settings here. We can configure the Shared Insight Cache, and here we're looking at the XML file with the settings that have been set up within the installation. We can see the number of log level settings and the log file name. We can see the number of backups and the maximum file size we have currently set up. Then we need to enable it in the SEPM, and we do that within the spyware protection policy. We go down to our global scan options and we enable the Shared Insight Cache and specify the host name of that server. Some best practices for the Shared Insight Cache. Must be located as close to the clients as possible. You don't want it too far away. That will delay the update and request for information. Can support 2,000 concurrently scanning clients. Must have randomization configured to increase the total number to enable them to manage those clients. Requires more memory as the number of clients increases. It's recommended to move the clients gradually into the server cache groups. That's so that as it's slowly building up information about those scans on those clients in the Insight Cache. Use the VIE tool to additionally reduce virtual machine scanning impact. We can monitor the Shared Insight Cache performance. We can use the counters within the Windows environment or the performance option. If you have to restart the Shared Insight Cache service, it may well be required after maybe changing certain values or troubleshooting. All of the whitelist information will be lost. It will need to be rebuilt up again by following scans from the clients and submissions. Here we can see the command lines to stop and start the Shared Insight Cache. So here we can see the workflow with Shared Insight Cache enabled. On step 1, we check to make sure if the file has a reputation, i.e. is it known. and we look in the local insight cache on the local client. If it is known, then we check its reputation and see whether it's good. If it's good, we skip it. If it's not, we could potentially convict that file or actually run a scan on it. If the reputation or file is not known in the local client insight cache, it will go to the shared insight cache. Then again, it will check its reputation, it will skip it potentially if it's good. If it's not, or if it's a binary file, it will then query the Symantec insight potentially. It may well update the shared insight cache with the information, and potentially it may scan the file if none of this information comes through. Let's look at virtual client tagging now. So virtual client tagging just enables you to have this virtualization platform tagged automatically on all clients, particularly virtual clients. So it means that the administrators can group together the platforms of similar needs and apply the right properties or policies. Offline image scanner. So what does the offline image scanner do? Well, the offline image scanner basically enables you to scan and detect malware in offline VMware images, so the VMDK files. Runs on operating systems on Windows only, has command line options to enable you to configure the running of it, provides detailed logging and reporting. It doesn't do any remediation, it just logs the information. Doesn't have any dependency on other Symantec software, except the AV definitions. Here we can see the table of the command line options available to you with SOIS. And here we can see we're running a command line scan. In the center we can see we've found 2 alerts. These 2 warnings, these are ICARs, which are the test string, but this is where you would see any particular warnings that would be found. So this information will be logged, and the administrators then need to decide on whether or not they need to run a scan manually. You can configure the scan. So once we've run the application, the SOIS-exe, we can see the if installed, and then we can configure the offline image scanner, specifying the folders to scan and the log file location. We can customize the scan settings. We could specify the AV definition locations. If you don't tick this box, it will automatically detect them. It can scan inside compressed files, and you can specify to what level. It could set up certain exclusions and configure the behavioral or heuristic scanning levels, and of course send usage information to Symantec. So when the scan is started, we can see a couple of processes that are running in the Windows Task Manager below here. These 2 SOIS processes will run while the scan is running. And we've got the scan progress on the right-hand side. You may well find it detects a virus, and this is the point where you'd want to take some action. If it comes back as saying all completed, then that's great. And it does all the error logging it to enable it to make decisions on how we're going to cope with these potential threats that are being found. So that brings us to the end of the virtualization lesson. We've introduced the new VIE tool, the shared insight cache, and the virtual client tagging.